Over the years, we have gotten many Sonic games, whether it be mainline, spin-offs, mobile games, and etc. But I personally feel like some of these small games that Sega have created tend to be obscure, overlooked, and possibly forgotten. So today I wanted to dive into some of these games that are obscure and possibly even forgotten by many people, so without further ado, let's get into it. So the first game I found to be obscure and possibly forgotten is called Shadow Shoot, which was a mobile game released for the Sonic Cafe service offered by Sega. It was actually developed by Sonic Team, funnily enough, and published by Sega. The plot of the game was pretty simple and generic, as Dr. Eggman stole a Chaos Emerald from Shadow and he just needs to get it back. Yeah, pretty generic. This game takes place over several automatically scrolling levels in which the player must guide Shadow to reach the end, collecting rings and defeating enemies as they go on. If you fall down a pit or hit an enemy when having no rings, the game is over. For attacks, Shadow can shoot things with a pistol or use the spin jump, which makes you score combos, and at the end of each level, a boss has to be defeated. So continuing on with Sonic Cafe, there was actually a Sonic kart racing game that you guys may have never heard of, known as Sonic Racing Kart. This was another game released in the Sonic Cafe service back in 2002. It was later made available through the Puyo Puyo Sega service as well, and would later be somewhat updated graphically and re-released by Tectoy in Brazil and by Gameloft in a few other regions. In this game you only get to play as Sonic, which kinda sucks, but I guess it's better than nothing as it was just a mobile game. This was a kart racing game in which the player controls Sonic as he races around the courses as fast as possible. The gameplay is viewed from a top-down third-person perspective. Two different variations of this view are able to be chosen, kart rotation and course rotation. Kart rotation rotates the kart itself as the player turns around corners as they race around the course, while course rotation turns the entire course instead. There is also a large speedometer placed in the bottom left corner of the screen, displaying the speed that Sonic is currently driving at. But funnily enough, there was actually a sequel to this game called Sonic Kart 3DX, which released in 2005. The game was essentially just the same thing, just that now you had two different game modes, S1 Grand Prix and Time Attack. The cool part about S1 Grand Prix was that every Monday at 10 AM a Grand Prix race was held, with each player's goal being the fastest time. A total of 4 courses are raced through and the times were automatically uploaded to the online leaderboards. As for Time Attack, this is the basic racing mode with no limit on playtime or course count. The goal here is just to practice getting the best times around the game's tracks. Moving on, we have Sega Sonic Cosmo Fighter, also titled Sega Sonic Cosmo Fighter Galaxy Patrol, which was a children's ride released in March 1993 as part of Sega's Waku Waku line exclusively in Japan. The arcade ride is a shoot-'em-up featuring Sonic in a red spaceship rescuing animals from Dr. Eggman in space. There was a family-sized cabinet with 2 buttons where you had to either fire projectiles towards Eggman and the speed button. And there was also a joystick to the side, which of course you needed to move the spaceship around. So, cool little game. Up next we have a childhood game of mine, Sonic the Hedgehog Chaos Crush. Bro, I remember playing this on my school's PCs back in elementary school, man. Good times, just good times. This was an online flash game published in 2006 to advertise the game Sonic 06, which was then taken down as it was discontinued. The gameplay is similar to games such as Arkanoid or Breakout. The player uses the arrow keys to move the pad across the screen, and with it, the player hits the ball to break the colored blocks above. The blocks change colors corresponding to how many hits they have left. There were also power-up gems that grant the ball special abilities that also appear based on the characters of Sonic, Silver, and Shadow. When activated, the player can press the spacebar to fire the ball as a powered shot with the corresponding character's ability. So for this next one, many people may have probably never even heard of this one. Sonic Freehand, or also known as Sonic the Sketchhog. This was a 2D side-scroller platform game for mobile phones and iOS devices. The game features Sonic in a hand-drawn doodle style defeating badniks like Crabmeat and Chopper as he advances his way through a drawn level. It was only available for the month of July 2010, but fear not, as a port of this game was later made available for iOS devices as part of the Sonic 20th Anniversary app, but as you guys know, that app doesn't exist anymore. The game is relatively simple to play. Sonic automatically runs to the level and the player must tap the screen in order to spin jump, and of course he can collect rings in the game. As long as Sonic has at least 1 ring in his possession, he will survive running into a Crabmeat or falling into a pit of spikes. Jeez. There were also different difficulties in this game, which were easy, normal, hard, very hard, and death. Yeah buddy, I don't even want to know about that last one.
Yeah, you suck.
But moving on to a more positive side, we have Sonic Shuffle, which was a Mario Party-like game that was released back in 2000 and 2001, exclusively for the Dreamcast. Funnily enough, this game was developed by Hudson Soft, the developers of Mario Party. I would say this game is mostly forgotten rather than obscure, as you can still play the game, just not the way how you were intended to, if you know what I mean.
What do you mean by that?
And last but not least, we have Knuckles Chaotix, which was released on the 32X and released in 1995, being the only Sonic game for the system, and it was literally a spin-off. The game introduces Knuckles with Team Chaotix, which pretty much replaces Sonic and Tails. The gameplay is similar to previous 2D platformers in the series, with the introduction of a partner system where two playable characters are linked to each other via a tether known as Ring Power, which behaves like a rubber band. Funnily enough, Knuckles Chaotix was initially developed as Sonic Crackers, a 1994 prototype for the Mega Drive which featured Sonic and Tails in a similar gameplay concept. It was first planned for a Sega Saturn release, but development moved to the 32X, which ultimately failed, selling only 24,000 copies. This game is so rare, it hasn't even been ported to modern consoles and would cost you an arm and a leg. So yeah, these were just a few obscure and forgotten Sonic games over the years, and I do gotta say that even I was surprised when researching all these games, as I never even heard of most of them. But hey, you guys let me know in the comments down below if there was any I missed and what was a game that you wish you could have played, or any games that you have played in the past. You guys let me know and I'll catch you guys in the next one. For now, stay safe, take care, and peace.